So let's kick it off in style with our very first session by inviting Mr. Sandeep Bhatia, the Executive VP Country Head, Capgemini Invent India, who will deliver the keynote address covering a very interesting topic and a topic very close to my heart, which is tech for good, sustainable social development. So we welcome Sandeep. Sandeep, over to you.
Thanks for having me here, and I really appreciate this opportunity to share what we're doing at Capgemini. And I really like the theme on the resilience and resurgent. And I think one thing I wanted to bring out very clearly is there's a big challenge which we are all facing, and that's the big reset. Most of you will know that in 2016, when we all signed the Paris Agreement, we said that how do we get our greenhouse emissions to zero by 2050? And it's not an easy ask because there are 51 billion tons of greenhouse emissions. So what we did at Capgemini was to put a stick in the ground and said, how can we start with ourselves and our immediate client base? And I wanted to sort of share some of the examples as to what we've taken as a goal and leverage technology in a new avatar on sustainability improvements. It's very obvious that the world of technology has gone through a big change, and I thought I'll share some of it and clearly walk you through what has happened. So 2020, when COVID hit us, I think everyone sort of thought that there's no office, no travel. It would be a marked improvement in our greenhouse emission. But if you look at it, it did drop by 2.5 billion tons, which is equivalent to about 500 million cars not on road for a year. And that's a great thing. But I think the counter to it is our connected devices and the way we've sort of spent time on Zoom meetings or in virtual sessions, that's gone up. And I think you can see some data on the right. And I think that's point of concern, which we all need to bring to the table as to how we sort of have countered the negative because of the IT spend, which is going up. I think if you look at the current environmental impact, it's like 3.3% of worldwide energy consumption. And the projected impact is 3x by 2025. And I think IT would have a huge part of the carbon emission by 2025. In fact, if you even just look at AI language processing and its learning, okay, it will generate about 1,400 pounds of carbon emission, which is equivalent to one person going from New York to San Francisco. So clearly, yes, in one point with the new normal hybrid working, we were able to offset some carbon emission. But in the parallel, we've also ended up creating much more of the carbon emission because of the excess IT spending which is happening. So clearly, what do we do about this is something which we thought at Capgemini and said, let's proactively put some solutions around this. You can clearly say that it is going to be a governance issue. It's also about how we sort of come up with different levers to sort of address this at all the levels within our organization. I think what we did was, like I said, what are the three big buckets which we need to attack? One was on the foundation and how do you look at coming up with targets. Like at Capgemini, we took a target that we will be carbon neutral by 2025. We took a target that we will also be 100% renewable energy by 2025. Then it's also about governance, okay? Do you have like dedicated teams? So do you have a sustainability offer? Do you work with sustainability throughout the value chain? And I think those were very interesting because that clearly will define a structural approach to sustainability. And then how do you operationalize? How do you educate? And like at Capgemini, the goal we took was we'll help our clients reduce 10 million tons of carbon emission by 2030. So clearly, we've sort of, what we preach, we're also following to the T as we sort of move forward. And I think you can clearly see that there is difference in maturity across how organizations are looking at sustainability. But interestingly, what you want to do is how can you leverage different facets of IT spend, like in data center, what can you do to leverage AI, for example, to get the expenses down? There was a BCG study which was published, which says that if you just leverage AI, you can actually reduce 5 to 10% of the carbon emission goal of the 51 billion tons. And 5 to 10% of 51 billion tons is a huge number just leveraging AI. So again, if you ask me, sustainability benefits are both tangible and intangible. If you ask me, the financial savings outweigh the brand image and the for planet expectations, but we will continue to sort of bring these to Forte. And in the theme of the NASDAQ, how can you leverage technology in a differentiated offering is something which we're very proud of as Capgemini as we bring it to the table. And I think the way you have to see it is you can leverage it to create an ecosystem, assess the ecosystem, and operationalize IT sort of going forward. It's clearly a big three-step approach. How do you align to the business model? How you baseline? And how do you then integrate it into your day-to-day IT operations? So this loop is something which we feel is the right solution, with technology being part of all the three activities. I think I will also sort of then talk about how we can use tech for good. And you will see that there are a lot of initiatives which are being run across industries. For example, FORM, which talks about how do you use data platform to resolve food shortages? How can you do emotion interpreting AI for charitable donations? How can you use data to bring more faster justice to our clients? And I think that's something which is interesting. And I think this is an interesting slide, AI for Good framework, which is proprietary to Capgemini. I think we're very happy because if you see, we're solving a lot of pertinent issues in line with the UN Sustainability Development Goals. And if you can see justice, environment, information, hunger, health, education, I think all these are very key problem statements where we are leveraging AI ecosystem for the good of the planet as well as human being. So clearly very happy that there are direct sustainability development goals on education, food, health. We've taken some good examples and taken it to the next level. For example, I'll give you a use case on education. We developed a machine learning algo which can help identify students with the probability of dropping off of school. And in one of the use cases is dropping off from engineering courses, because that also helps the for-profit organization, because if they don't get the talent. Then clearly, how can you leverage the trauma cases using AI? How can you use AI for neurodiverse population, people with ADHD, people with autism? So all these examples are very interesting. And I think I just put the theme back, which is tech for good, which is very interesting. Some more examples on justice, for example, how we devised Haystack, which is an investigative tool to detect criminal behavior. On Info, where you use social media analytics to identify the fake news in advance, which was very big in the US elections in 2016. So if you ask me, the AI for Good platform attacks most of the problem statements which we face as a society, and how we can use it for the good of the overall planet as well as people. I want to sort of end by coming up with our stack of offerings around the sustainability. And I think I will still go back to the three levers I said: commit, act, and monitor. And I think on the commit part, I mentioned the net zero strategy and the new business models. On the act part, sustainable operations, sustainable IT, the green experience. And then on the monitor part, how can you do ESG modeling, for example, or coming up with new trends around monitoring and reporting. So clearly, the resilience to resurgent, we can leverage tech to come up with the good of the planet, good of the people, and see how we can take it to the theme. And again, with that, I'll pass it back to you, and thanks for having me in this forum.
Well, just like charity begins at home, even sustainability should, and I think must begin at home. Thanks, Sandeep and Capgemini, for owning up the responsibility of creating a sustainable environment. You have created a lot of hopes amongst all the delegates and attendees present here at NASDAQ 2021.